We're so excited for you to be joining us today. My name is Julia and our model is Isabel, and we are going to teach you how to sew just a delightful little dress for your doll. Now, when you get your package, it will look like this. And the first things that we will end up pulling out will be, there's your Velcro, there's the necklace, there's the bow, and these will all be things that'll be at the end. Here's your skirt, and then right here is your shirt. This is the front, and then this is the back of the dress. But before we get started on actually sewing there, we need to just do a little bit of a test on your sewing machine to make sure that it is threaded properly, okay? Now the fabric that we're looking at here is called a knit, and this knit fabric, actually, if you pull it, it will not do well. It'll stretch out. And see if you can watch this with me. That looks pretty nice, but if when I'm sewing, I start to pull it like that, it looks yucky. See how that will mess up the edge, okay? So if you just have it regular, when you get it, it looks like that. And when we sew on it, it will do fine. But if you decide to pull on it, it'll look a little yucky, okay? So let's practice sewing. The first thing that I was taught to do is to put my needle down, okay? Put your needle down first, that puts it in position, and then we're just gonna sew a little bit, okay? Now, that makes sure that everything is good, okay? Now, I'm gonna take that out. You can see mine got a little bunchy there, okay? But I've already tested my strip and it went fine before that. So the first thing we're gonna do is when you get a little more confident, you won't have to pin this, but we're gonna start with the shoulder seams. And we're gonna pin it, and you want to try to pin it straight across, right? I don't wanna pin it like this because I'm gonna be sewing in that direction, okay? And I wanna have it be as straight as I can. I don't wanna pin it in like this because I'm sewing this way over those needles. It's more likely that this needle will break if I do that. So then I can pin my other side. Pin that in, pin that in. And when you're working with fabric that is like this t-shirt material, that's what knit means, you don't want to start right on this edge, okay? You want to start a little bit in, okay? So I'm going to go down like this, and I'm going to put this is called a presser foot, so I have a lever in the back that I'm pushing down. I'm going to pull out my needle, and then I am going to go forward, and then I'm going to go backward, okay? So it just depends what your machine does, but you need to find what makes it's called a back stitch, okay? So I'm going to go forward a little bit, and I'm going to push this down and go back. So you'll sew the one shoulder seam, then you'll sew the other shoulder seam the same way. Then you'll come to the side here, and you'll sew again, leaving fabric on the right hand side. You'll sew down, back stitch, okay? And the back stitch just reinforces it, like putting a little knot on there so that it doesn't unravel. Then you'll take it, you'll turn it, and you can either turn it like this and sew this way, or you can flip it over. I would prefer doing it this way, flipping it over and putting it there, because then that way this seam right here will be aligned, will match. Where down here it may not totally match up, but that's okay because we'll be using the blue skirt to cover that. So you put it in here, remembering you put your needle down, put your presser foot down, and make sure that you have this here. And as you're going down, you keep your eye here. And because there's not much fabric, your hand will go right here and help guide the fabric, but you can't be pressing down on it so hard that it stops it, because remember, the feed dogs need to be able to push it through, okay? So after you've sewn your shoulder seams and your side seams, now it's time to put on the Velcro, okay? Now the Velcro is what's going to hold it together, and it's called a notion. Now I've got the rough side and the smooth side here, and now I'm going to pull them apart. But now this is the inside of the garment that you've sewn. So you're going to take this and fold it over like that. And you're going to take the sticky side and line it up. Okay? And now you're going to pin it, okay? Just like you've pinned your other things. Now I have a really hard, I know I've told you to pin sideways like this because you'll be sewing down like that. I have a really hard time pinning Velcro sideways because there's not a lot of space. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to pin it vertically or up and down near the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to do that near the bottom, and then I'm going to hold it near the top. And I'm going to take this over here and I'm just going to sew straight down, okay? So put that down in there and put your presser foot down, and then you just sew straight down. Only do it one time. Make sure that none of your other fabric is in there to get sewn under that. Don't worry about going back up and down or around. Just go down one time till you get down here, and then you back stitch. Okay? Now, once you've done that, you need to do the other side. And on the other side, okay, so now this is going to be the finished side that you're going to see on the outside of the garment. Sewing, you have to think opposites a lot. You have to really think, okay, which side should I be sewing this on? So if it's helpful, now that you have this sewn, you can go around and look at your garment, how it's going to go on your doll. Okay, now it might help to see it on her. See, this is the front, okay, of her, and then this is the back, and that's what you just sewed. You just sewed this Velcro on there, all right? So now we need to sew this on. And how we're gonna do that is we're just gonna sew it right on like this. We're not gonna fold it or anything because this part is gonna come over and take care of that, and it's gonna hide this edge, okay? So now I'm gonna take this piece and match it up with the top. Thank you, Isabel. We're gonna match it up with the top like this, and that's what I'm gonna sew. And remember, I wanna start at the top and go down when I'm sewing things on, because that way the Velcro will match and not go past the top, okay? So I bring this over here, put it right under, and then put my needle down, and that way everything stays in place. Then once you have that, you can pin it so this part stays in place for you. Okay? And then you'll just sew straight down, and when you get down closer here, you can take your pin out and you'll be all set. Okay? So now you've sewn all of this part together, okay? And it will look very nice. It's looking very nice, but what do you need? You still need your skirt, okay? So I'm gonna pin in these little spots that we have already sewn together so we can be looking good here. And these are spots that you've already sewn. I'm just putting a pin in it so we can look at this together. Okay, so now you have the top and it's finished. And your Velcro, they're called closures, your Velcro will go there. And the next thing that we want to do is put on this skirt, okay? So you're gonna take the skirt and you're gonna start at one side and you're gonna pin it right on top, okay? So it's gonna be right on top of what you're doing, of the finished edge that's gonna go for your doll. How do you know how far to pin it or how much to pin? You want to pin where this line is here, that second stitch. You want to pin your pink to be level with that second stitch. Okay, see there's the second stitch and I'm pinning it just like that. Okay, so I'm going to pin it all the way around until I get to the end. Okay, and then it should look like that. If you have any extra blue, just leave it. We'll trim it off in a few minutes, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this piece like this. I'm gonna make sure there's nothing back here that I could sew on. And I'm gonna sew with this, the first stitch as my guide. Remember the material, the pink material goes down to this stitch, and I'm gonna sew right here. And I'm just gonna sew right on top of this. So as you're sewing, before we looked up here where the extra was coming off the side, but here we're gonna look here and you're gonna look down a little bit. So as you're sewing, you wanna go slowly. You don't get any points for going fast. You wanna be slow and just keep your eyes down here as your machine is going so that you can keep it straight as it's going through. But remember, not too tight, but you're steering from back here, okay? So if you're starting to see that you're sewing like this, then you want to turn it a little bit this way. If you start to see that you're sewing and it's going a lot more over that way, then you want to turn and go this way. Okay, and while you're sewing, you're guiding. In the same way when your parents are driving, they make little changes to the steering wheel. That's what you're doing here. You're making little changes and you're keeping your eyes here. Not right there, but down here a little ways so you can make sure that that's centered up as you're sewing that through. Okay? Then once you get done with that, you're all sewn together. Okay, everything is together. And now your dress will look like this, okay? But it's not connected yet in the back. So you've sewn your Velcro on, but this part, we haven't sewn this seam yet, okay? So now you're gonna take this that you've sewn, and this is the front, this is what the dress will look like in the front, and you're gonna take these and fold them together so that yucky side is showing. Fold that together, and then you're just going to sew right down here, okay? Straight down the back of the skirt. And this pink will be right there. Okay? And if you have any extra blue, now's when you can cut that. If there's any pieces like that, you can trim that. But we'll go ahead and sew that seam. Now remember, we don't want to sew from the bottom up. We want to sew from the top down, okay? So you can flip it over. And the blue starts a little bit up here, okay? Because remember, we sewed down, we put the fabric here, but the blue starts up there. And then we just put this down. Make sure you have some over the edge so you can sew. And then you just sew straight down here, taking your pins out as you're sewing so you don't sew over your pin. Nice and slowly going through there. Now when you get to the bottom, you want to make it flat. So see how it's all ruffly here? I don't want to sew part of my ruffle down. I want to just kind of flatten it out, straighten it out, and sew the flat part, okay? Sew that flat, just like that, okay? Now you're done with your actual dress, okay? And once you've sewn that on, okay, you've sewn that seam, you can turn your dress right side out so it looks like this, and you'll see that this side is still turned under a little bit, and this side isn't turned at all, but it gets covered, okay? It gets covered by this finished look. Now, she's got her dress on, but she's not accessorized, so we've got to fix that. All right, you're gonna take your pearls, your pink pearls, and you've turned your dress right side out already. You're gonna take your pink pearls and you're gonna sew them into both of the corners, okay? So I have some thread and a needle, and I'm gonna show you how I tie the end of mine, okay? So after you've threaded your needle and put in any color thread, white or light pink works, I take this and I fold it over, okay? See, now I have a little loop. Now I take my needle, and I go through like that, and I've twisted it. See? I'm twisting my loop. And I come through like this, and I did that a little fast. Let me show you again. It goes to my finger. I keep my finger like that so that this doesn't get in a knot before the end. That would be frustrating. So then I pull it over there, and I'm holding on still and slowly pulling with my right hand to get the knot, okay? Now sometimes it's helpful to have two knots. So I'm gonna fold it in half, feeling the knot in my fingers like that. I'm gonna take my needle through, go down, I twist it and come back up, still holding with my left hand, pulling, 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 and I get that second knot there. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to get my pink pearls and I'm going to put them in the corner here, right here on this edge, okay, where the seams come together. I'm going to hold on to that with my finger. I happen to have long fingernails right now, so it's kind of working for me, but you hold it however you need to. And my goal is to get around this loop a couple times, okay? Get around this the thread of the strand, but I don't want to make it too tight, because if I make it too tight, then there will be kind of a kink in my pearls. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of pull it like that, okay, and then I'm just going to keep going up and down, right here, so that my pearls will stay in place. Okay, and you see how where I sewed it, it matches up with that seam. This kind of goes right with that seam, okay? Then you go around a couple more times, and then to tie off your knot, you just sew it. It's like you sew into your knot. You don't want to sew up through the fabric, but you sew into your knot. See how I made the loop, but now my finger doesn't have to hold it, and I just pull that through and I make a knot, okay? I like to do 2 or 3 knots before I trim it, okay? And then I trim it and do the other side, okay? The other side, I'll do exactly the same way, but I'll just go around like that and just do it exactly the same way on this side, okay? And then I have my beads. And again, I'm careful not to pull my neckline, because if I pull on my neckline, it won't look that nice, okay? Now the last thing that we're gonna do is a bow, all right? This is the ribbon that we need for the bow. And you